Hi everybody, Creative Katie Karen Burchill here. Welcome to an art journal tutorial. And the message of this one, if you stumble, make it part of the dance. If something happens on your art journal page, embrace it and figure it out and make it work. That's the joy of experimenting and having fun. Today I'm experimenting with drywall mesh. Now it comes on these rolls, fairly inexpensive. And I've had this in my stash for a long time, and lately you've seen me using it. But other than putting one strip on a page in a straight line, that's pretty much where I've left it. So I just wanted to play with it today and layer it up a little bit and see what else I can do with it. I wanted to explore some ideas. So I'm cutting it using different thicknesses. Now here I'm applying it with gesso. And I did discover that it's better off if you apply it with gel medium and then gesso it afterwards. I thought I would skip a step, and it kind of works, but it does adhere better with the gel medium. So I'm just building layers, and I just want to see, once I add paint to this, once I finish this as a page, what does it look like? So I'm just trying to make an interesting background and trying to think a little bit out of the box. But I'm, really stuck in the linear and doing that. And here I'm really pushing it down into the gesso. So I want to make an interesting background, and I want to really utilize the texture that comes from the drywall tape because I really am enjoying the end effect of it in the finished projects that I've done. So I'm going this way and that way. Cutting different shapes from it. Now, I would love it if I could find the drywall mesh that was like double this thickness or triple the thickness. That would be awesome because then you can cut it into all sorts of shapes. But instead of thinking about what I'm limited on, I thought, okay, let's just see what I can do. So I'm adding little bits here and there, smaller pieces, bigger pieces. Pushing it down. And giving it a good dry. Now I grabbed some and I made them squares, and then I somehow was pulling off some of the ends to get kind of that frayed look. And in doing that, I kind of distorted the square. So it kind of became more of a diamond, and it kind of gave a different pattern. And I thought, that's interesting. So then I deliberately did that. And in some places, I've got 3 layers of drywall tape on this, and I wanted to see what that looked like in the end. Once we did put gesso on top of it, once I did put paint on top of it. So there you go. I kind of swirled it and it's got a little bit of motion to it. I'm thinking, yeah, I'm going to do that on purpose for sure. Now I apologize. It's kind of white on white on white here. So it's a little hard to see, but I do have some still pictures coming up that you're going to hopefully be able to see the layers. And so I did 3 of those kind of wonky diamonds. Because 3 is always a good number. Your eye seems to like that. So I'm giving that a good dry. And there you can see all the texture that I've done with the drywall tape. So now that it's all dry, I'm digging out my colors, and I decided to go blue. And a lot of times when I use blue, I use Prussian blue, which works towards the teal. It's kind of a green blue. And I always add the yellow green, and I didn't want to do that. I wanted to stick in the blues. The color of the year, Pantone color of the year is blue. Now I wanted a little more interest in there, so I just dug out some of my texture stamps. This is the Tim Holtz Mixed Media #2. I thought, oh, better tape off the edge here before I go much further to keep that clean. I just wanted some interest underneath. Then I put a peacock feather in there. Now in the end, a lot of this does not show because the paints that I've used were very opaque and they covered everything behind it. If I'd used paints, if I used a glaze, I would have seen a lot more of that coming through. And that's what I might attempt next time, is doing a glaze. I wanted to mix the colors on the page. So I've got light blue permanent, I've got aquamarine blue, I've got Payne's gray, which is a blue toned dark gray. And I wanted to catch the different colors in the nooks and the crannies of the drywall mesh tape that I've put in there. But again, I'm experimenting, so I'm figuring it out as I go along. And that's part of the message. If you stumble, make it part of the dance. Make it seem like this is exactly what you planned on doing. In some of the drywall mesh, it stays white because it's hard to get it. If you do a dry brush, and I'm going to do more of that in a minute, it's going to really bump up the texture. So first I'm getting a base coat of blue, and then I'm going to see if I can, by dry brushing and application of lighter or darker, bump up that texture to really make it more of a feature on the page. So I think, okay, I'm going to remove paint through a stencil. So I grabbed this honeycomb stencil, and yeah, that didn't give me the effect because of the texture that was there, because of it just didn't give me what I wanted. So I reapply the paint, and I grab some white paint. Now, the paint underneath is not dry, so I'm getting kind of more of a blend than I want. And I grab some gesso, and I'm going to use the makeup sponge and gesso through the stencil. But again, the paint's not dry, so I end up with a lighter blue than a opaque white. But I'm sure I'm not the only one who struggles with waiting for things to dry. Even with the heat tool, I couldn't do it. And I'm not happy right now, but I know also that I'm not done. So if you're looking for this honeycomb stencil or any of the other products that I've used, you can look in the description box below for the links, and that will take you to my Amazon store. I don't want to obliterate the texture that is there from the drywall tape. And here I'm taking the makeup sponge and applying the white on these wonky diamonds that I put just to bring them out. So there's the dark paint underneath, and now with the white on it, it's really bringing out the texture. And I'm loving that effect. And I think I could have gotten that effect too by just dry brushing. So again, I'm doing it in other parts where the drywall tape is. I know in the States you can get drywall tape that has basically, it looks like someone has taken a paper punch, a hole punch, and punched holes in it. I would love to get my hands on some of that. But so far I haven't been able to source that out in Canada. Now I'm taking dark paint and doing the same thing with the makeup sponge, kind of dry brushing, rubbing over the texture of the drywall tape. I want to bring that out. Love this stencil and thought, okay, I'm going to add a little bit of dark. I need some contrast. So I believe that's Prussian blue. And I'm just adding a little bit of detail here. And this just makes everything work. I did before, I don't think I had enough contrast in what was in the background. And it was just too one tone. So again, if you stumble, just keep dancing. Make it seem like that's what you planned on doing. So I grabbed that quote and I'm playing with these ballerinas with how I want it. I'm kind of liking this now from as I'm looking at it, the two kind of dancing like that. That would have worked. I've got them going in opposite directions. So there are various compositions that you can do. And I've got the sentiment there, so I'm able to play with where I want things to go. One trick I do is I take pictures of the different compositions and then I can look at it afterwards. When I'm doing a video, I can look in the video camera and see what looks better. It gives you a different perspective than when you're looking at it straight on. I painted one of the girls black to see if that was making it would look better. And I decided, no, I'm going to keep them white. So now that I've decided which way I want these girls to go, and there was no right or wrong, I could have gone either way, and so can you. I could have just put the one. And I'm using gel medium here as opposed to the liquid medium because there's so much texture underneath it. I need a little bit more to make sure that I get this glued down properly. Now this was looking a little too stark, so I grab my Inktense pencil and I want, again, some contrast. I want a shade, but I didn't want to add black because I thought that would just be too bold. So this is a blue, and that's the joy of using your Inktense pencils or watercolor pencils because you have different colors. And then I'm just activating it with water and a round brush and just shading around the sentiment. It's a dark, dark blue. I just want that to pop. And as always, the shading, outlining makes so much difference on a page. So quite often, if you have stopped and you go, yeah, I like it, but it looks like it's missing something, have you outlined? Have you shaded? Have you highlighted? Sometimes it's those little details that make the biggest differences. Now I'm going to shade, do the same around the side edge of the paper. I have Inktense blocks, I have pencils. Sometimes I grab either or. They're great. Inktense are powdered ink that has been compressed basically. And being ink, it's permanent once it's completely activated and dry. And then you have all the colors. If I had done a purple page, I could use the darkest purple. If I need it to be more, I can come back and add. Now the girls are looking a little too, they're not standing out enough because it's so white, so I'm doing the shading in the same way. Now here I'm taking the paintbrush and rubbing the paintbrush on the Inktense pencil. This is where blocks come in handy because you can use it like a paint palette, and I'm shading around this. This just allows me to get closer and maybe give a little more subtle effect. Just another way of applying it. Try each way and see what works best for you. But I needed to make these girls stand out. It was too icy and pristine before. Have you created a page with the Pantone color of the year, blue? If you Google Pantone color of the year 2020, you can see the exact shade of blue that is our color of the year. So there we have what's there, and I'm liking it and it's improved, but I'm not done yet. So I'm grabbing some gold paint that is thinned acrylic that I have in a container. I have it pre-diluted with water, and I'm splattering the gold. And then I decide that I need to shade on the actual paper, give it a little bit more, make these girls not so pristine, make them stand out a little bit more. So sometimes I shade on the outside, sometimes I shade on the inside, and sometimes like on this one, I've done both. And in my world, in my thing, adding this made a big difference. It just gave some more definition to these dancers. So I go on and I'm using my Inktense pencil again, going in, then activating it with water. Now I put a coat of the gel medium when I glued those girls down, so it has become a bit of a non-porous surface. So that's kind of key too. And I'm smudging it up a little bit because I don't want. Before I splattered with white, now I'm splattering with gold. Yellow is a complementary color to the blue, so it really pops. And you can see it just added that little extra something something. So if you stumble, Make it part of the dance. Solve the problem. You always can. It's an opportunity to learn something new that next time you can do on purpose. Bye for now. Thanks so much for watching.